Kahala Yahawah, BaHaSham Yahawashi, BaHaSham Rakahakradash. Double honors to the elder apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, for teaching his word in truth and sincerity. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect scattered abroad. Peace and salutations to the sincere Akim that's pushing his word in truth and sincerity to USA Shalom. Many people don't truly understand the Bible when you get into the subject of the Most High Yahawah BaHaSham Yahawashi creates good and evil, and he deals in balance. So a lot of people come to this crazy conclusion that Satan is a separate entity from the Most High, Yahawah BaHaSham Yahawashi, that he works on his own accord. He's some sort of fallen angel that, rebelled, and because he had resentment, he wanted power, and he felt like he wasn't being appreciated and all this other nonsense. You truly don't understand the scriptures, and you deal with fantasy. You're dealing with a lot of folly that Edom has put into the scriptures. So the first thing you must understand is that the Most High Yahawah BaHaSham Yahawashi creates good and evil. Satan doesn't work independently of the Most High Yahawah BaHaSham Yahawashi. He's actually created by Yahawah BaHaSham Yahawashi to do that left-hand work, to create that balance between good and evil. He's on the left-hand side of Yahawah, while Yahawashi is on the right-hand side of Yahawah. On the left-hand side, you got Satan, the spiritual demon that is called Satan, and you have his minion, angels, whatever you want to call them. He has his angels. And on the right-hand side, you have Yahawashi and angels, and the righteous angels. So I'm going to start off with John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with power, and the Word was power. So when you go into the Strong's Concordance, and you go into that word, which is Strong's G 3056, it's logos. The word is logos, and it has several meanings to it, but the particular meaning and I'm going into is after you go into the word is speech, a word uttered by living voice, embodies a conception or idea, what someone has said. I'm just going to read the broad aspect of it, and because I'm going to get to the point. It's a discourse, doctrine, teaching, anything reported in speech or narration, narrative. So I'm going down to the bottom where it speaks on what John is actually saying. And John denotes the essential word of powers, God, Yahawashi, Hamashiach, the personal wisdom and power in union with powers, his minister in creation and government of the universe, the course of all the world's life, both physical and ethical, which for the procurement of man's salvation put on human nature in the person of Yahawashi Hamashiach, the second person in the Godhead, and shown forth conspicuously from his words and deeds. So when you look at this verse again, in the beginning was the Word. In the beginning, Yahawah spoke all these things into existence. The universe. Whatever you see, taste, smell, touch, everything, the air you breathe, the trees you see, the concrete you walk on, everything was spoken into existence by Yahawah. And the first spirit created was Yahawashi. Then the angels. So now all these, the first thing that was created was Yahawashi and the angels. And he gave them the blueprint on how to create this universe and this world, Earth. So all these things you see was created by Yahawashi and the angels. You could say with the guidance of Yahawah. He gave them the blueprint on how to do it. Salakia. Give me 1 sec. So he pretty much supervised them on creating this world, this universe. It goes back to like how you would raise your son. You teach him basics, and let's say you had a trade and you wanted him to learn the trade. You teach him the basics, and he's right there by you. And as you learn, as you're working, he learning. As you're working, you teaching, and he picks up on certain things. He learns how to develop the skill. He hone the skill, and he go out and create on his own. That's how this earth was created. By Yahawashi, Hamashiach, and the angels, with the tutelage and supervision of Yahawah. If you go into Proverbs 8, and you go into the latter verses, starting around 22, Yahawashi speaks on these things, on how he was there when Yahawah was creating the universe. So with that being said, that spiritual demon Satan, that entity that people like to give its own persona to, like he's his own entity and he works outside of the will of Yahawah BaHaSham, Yahawashi. Like you don't know what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? You don't know what you're reading. The Lord has either blinded you or is a stumbling block for you. Either way, you're wrong, and what you're wrong in your comprehension. So I'm gonna go from here to Psalms 5. I'm gonna read verse 4. Psalms 5 and 4. For thou art not a power that hath pleasure in wickedness, neither shall evil dwell in thee. So the Most High himself is not going to deal wickedly. He don't deal with evil. So that's why he created that balance, good and evil, because he doesn't deal in wickedness. So he created an entity to dish out that evil that needs, that creates that balance. Because he's not gonna do it himself, for say. So when you say, oh, Satan is walking along the earth, Satan is he was jealous of God, and he was jealous of Yahawah, and Yahawah cast him down, and now he's roaming around the earth making, just creating evil. Nothing happens without the say-so of the Most High. Nothing happens without it being ordained by Yahawah. Nothing. So from here, we're just gonna go through these scripts, and it's gonna basically show you that, you know, the Most High, Yahawah BaHaSham Yahawashi, deals with balance, and He creates good and evil. So when you really start to understand the scriptures, you start to leave the folly out of it, man. You leave the nonsense, the fairy tales, all the nonsense that Esau has created to try to control the narrative, to drive, to keep you from truly understanding the scriptures and what it's actually saying. We're gonna go into 1 Samuel, chapter 2, and I'm gonna read verses 6 and 7. 1 Samuel chapter 2, verse 6. The Lord killeth and maketh alive. He bringeth down, and he bringeth down to the grave and bringeth up. Verse 7. Yahawah maketh poor and maketh rich. He bringeth low and lifteth up. So it's not hard to understand, It's not hard to comprehend. You just have to leave out your personal feelings, your personal opinions. And if you've learned some strange doctrine, you're gonna have to strip yourself of that. You have to pray to the Most High, Yahawah BaHaSham Yahawashi, to strip you from that shit. Because it's pure nonsense. It's folly. The Christian doctrine full of folly. It's full of falsehoods, lies. It's all deceit. If you're dealing with any of these heathen worship, heathen religions, they deal all in make believe, man. None of those gods are real. The Most High said none of those gods are real. He's the only true and living power, and His name is Yahawah. The Heavenly Father's name is Yahawah. His only begotten Son, His name is Yahawashi. Not all those crazy names that you people come up with. From here, we're going to go to Job. The book of Job, chapter 31. And I'm going to read verse 6. Let me be weighed in an even balance, that powers may may know mine integrity. I'll read that again. Job 31, chapter 31, verse 6. Let me be weighed in an even balance, that powers may know mine integrity. So Job was stripped of everything. And this is kind of confusing to people, Somebody asked me about that one time, when I mentioned Job, it brought up the topic of Satan, physically walking the planet, That was the spiritual demon of Satan. That was just the spirit of Satan. Satan is a spirit, just another spirit that the Most High created that dwells in that realm. Satan is not literally a physical man. When you look up the word Satan, it goes into the word adversary. So he's an adversary of the right hand of Yahawah. So, spirits, they could roam about, but it's not a physical manifestation. The physical manifestation of Satan would be the so-called white man, who is the devil that the Bible speak of, the wicked that the Bible speak of. He has the spirit of Satan on him, and the things that he do, the corruption and the murder and the rape and the robbery that he do. That's a spirit that's on him. That's a demon that's on him. That's these people's You know, that's their makeup. That's what's on them. The same way you have good spirits that's on people, you have evil spirits that's on people. So with Job, when Yahawah had that counsel with the angels, you know, Satan came by, you know, and he asked him what he was doing. He said, I was walking up through and to and fro. You know, he was about to and fro on the earth, you know, doing what he set out to do, doing what he's instructed to do. You know, so Satan was let loose on Job, you know, to try Job, to test Job, to test his faith, to test test his true alliance with the Most High Yahawah BaHaSham Yahawashi. You can go read that story. It's a damn good one. You know, it shows the integrity of a man who puts his faith into Yahawah BaHaSham Yahawashi, because he allowed that spirit to, you know, strip Job of everything. You know, to test his integrity, and that's what Job is speaking about in this verse. You know, he's basically saying, man, judge me evenly. You know, judge me on the balance. You know, I may have done wicked. I don't know what I've done wicked, but also, you know, judge me for the things that judge me based on my integrity. So there's a balance. If you see what I'm saying, if you get what I'm getting at, there's a balance involved. It's not just Satan just running around just causing mayhem, you know, on his own. No. It's all based on the will of Yahawah BaHaSham Yahawashi. Nothing happens on this planet, nothing happens in this realm, nothing happens in general without the Most High say so. This is Proverbs 11, and I'm going to read verse 1. This is the subheading to this chapter is a contrast the upright and the wicked. Proverbs 11 and 1. A false balance is an abomination to Yahawah, but a just balance is his delight. You know? So this tells you right here, man, that anytime you're dealing with anything in this physical, anything that you're dealing with here, he prefers a balance, a just balance. So if you have a business, you have a little storefront, you shouldn't be trying to jack up the prices on this person, that person, and then have a discount for this other person. A just balance. Everybody gets treated equally, fairly. You know what I'm saying? You don't play with the prices. You don't play with the scales. You know, if you weighing something out, product, like say if somebody wanted 100 jelly beans, or they wanted 2 pounds of jelly beans, you're not going to give them 1 pound, 1.8. You're not going to give them 1.7 and try to skew the balance where it says 2. You know, you're going to give them what they asked for. You're going to give them what they're paying for. From here, we're going to go to Deuteronomy 32. And now I'll go to read verses 39. 39 to 43. Deuteronomy 32 and 39. See now that I, even I, am he, and there is no power with me. I kill and I make alive. I wound and I heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand. Verse 40. For I lift up my hand to heaven and say, I live forever. If I wet my glittering sword and my hand take hold on judgment, I will render vengeance to mine enemies, and I will reward them that hate me. This is verse 42. I will make mine arrows drunk with blood, and my sword shall devour flesh, and that with the blood of the slain and of the captives, from the beginning of revenges of revenges upon the enemy. Rejoice, O ye nations, with his people, for he will avenge the blood of his servants, and will render vengeance to his adversaries, and will be merciful unto his land and to his people. So this is just another instance of how the Lord creates a just balance, how the Lord directs good and evil. He will slay the wicked and bring up his people. And who is his people? His people are the Israelites, the Hebrew Israelites, which are you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. His people. You know, just balance. Right now, the heathen is ruling, the wicked, the devil himself, you know, with the spirit of Satan on him. That's Esau, Edom. With the head of Esau being the Amalekites, you know, Amalek, the small hats, those imposters that's sitting around, you know what I'm saying, defiling our land. And the reason why they're in power, you know, is because we messed up. It's because we went off continuously, you know. Every time the Lord turned around, we was going off. Every time he turned around, we were doing something wicked or murmuring or doing something that, you know, that wasn't pleasing to him. So he kept putting us in captivity. So, you know, that's good and evil. That's a just balance. So when your kids do right, what do? You congratulate them. You might celebrate with them. If they do wrong, if they do something that, you know, what you would consider to be evil, what do? You punish them. It's a balance, man. People think that, you know, I don't know what people think when it comes to the Most High, you know, Yahawah, BaHaSham, Yahawashi, you know, who they falsely call God and who they falsely call JC and all these other weird, wicked names. I honestly don't know, man, because you know, people are bugged out. So you think that the Lord is just all love, but how did evil come about? You know, oh, it's Satan. Okay, who created him? You know, but you know, but the Lord is all about love. It's all about being good, and it's all about, you know, lollipops and gumdrops. Like, people are silly, man, and just their logic, their rationale, they're out of their minds. Like, I just don't get it, man. Like, because when I first read the scriptures, I understood what I was reading. You know, certain things you have to have broken down to you, you know, when you really get deep into those prophecies and some of the dark sayings. But for the most part, the book is up front, man. You know, you won't have to look up a lot of words, no doubt. You know, you definitely gonna have to look up words. But it's pretty straightforward. You know, but you know, people have been brainwashed, and it's hard to break those restraints on people. You know, people are like restrained with all these different philosophies and wayward doctrines. You know, for some reason they just don't want to believe that the Most High Yahawah BaHaSham Yahawashi creates good and evil, and that He controls both sides of the both sides of the spectrum. But from here we're gonna go on to Isaiah 45. And that's gonna go, and then we'll go to Isaiah 45:7. I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, Yahawah, do all these things. For some reason, people seem astonished when they hear that verse. Like, I've spoken to a person who didn't even know that verse existed. You know, when I mentioned that the Lord creates good and evil, the look on his face was like, "What? Are you serious? Are you crazy?" It's like, dude, this is a person that, quote unquote, been in the scriptures all their life. You've never run across that verse. You never run across any of these verses where it talks about the Lord creates good and evil in some form or fashion. It talks about Him creating good and evil. He weighs the scales in the balance. He has a just balance. But these are these people that have been brainwashed by this plantation Christianity that only play, I wouldn't say play, but only touch on 2 or 3 scriptures from the New Testament. Never go into the Old Testament. And the main reason this person said he doesn't go into the Old Testament was because of all the names that's involved in it. The Jebusites, the Girgasites, and it's like, man, get over that. It's like that's history. That's a lot of that stuff is a lineage. Lineage rather, and that's history involved. So a lot of people, they're lazy and they're content with being told a fairy tale. But when the Lord visits this place, when He's ready to set this place on fire via nuclear destruction, what you gonna say then? Because you haven't studied to show yourself approved for your power. What you gonna say? Everybody believes in these silly doctrines like a rapture and all this other nonsense. A pre-tribulation rapture. That's what that shit is. Yeah, okay. The Lord is all about long suffering. He's all about proving yourself and being tested. Every day is a test out here to see what you're going to do when you're faced with certain situations. But like the apostles go into, man, our people are stupid, man. They sottish children. That's Jeremiah 4:22. Our people are just stupid, man. And they believe everything that they're told by their oppressor. Everything these Edomites tell them, they pretty much believe it. They don't take account, and they don't take accountability. They don't take the responsibility of going into these scriptures on their own and looking up what these words and what these verses and what these different stories mean. These stories are our history. These are things that we went through throughout the course of time. But Esau has made so much folly out of it, and so much, fairy tale shit out of it, man. Our people just don't see it. I get why a quote unquote a so-called white man, or an Edomite, I can see why they would say the things they say, But our people, what's your excuse, man? But all this is already written out, man. This is the Most High story. This is his movie. This is his script. So it's all been written out. It's all been planned out. We don't move independently from the Most High. He controls all our movements, all our thoughts, all our actions. So at the end of the day, I get it. It's just like I'll always say, man, it's amazing to watch. It's amazing to watch this story play out.